What's going on, guys? My name is Jonathan Gonzalez, and I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite films of 2019. So the reason I'm doing this video is actually it's a bit of an experimentation for me. I wanted to actually have the chance to actually talk about films. I've always been interested in doing film reviews or talking about films in some capacity, and so this is my chance to actually do that. The way I'm going to be doing this is I wanted to give a chance to talk to people about my top 10 favorite films of the year. And I'm also going to be doing another video about my top 10 favorite films of the decade. And so based on the results on that and based on how people respond to that, I'm going to decide whether or not I'm going to continue doing film reviews or movie reviews, depending on if people think they want to see it or not. I'm very nervous, guys, so I apologize in advance if this seems amateur or anything like that, so please bear with me. So the reason I wanted to talk about 2019 was because this was a great year in terms of film. This is probably the best year we've had since 2014 or 2016, one of the two. Even though I haven't really done any film reviews this year, I wanted to talk about my top 10 favorite films because I wanted to give everybody a chance to understand my perspective when it comes to film, the way I analyze film, my taste, and my perspective. And so I thought this would be a great way to actually introduce you guys and give you an idea about my kind of taste in film or, the types of stories I'm into. So I thought this would be a great chance. So if you guys will please bear with me and you guys are still here watching the video at this point, thank you so much and I appreciate it. And so if you guys are ready, here we go. So before I go into my list, guys, I want to get a few honorable mentions out of the way that I feel deserve some recognition. And so here they are. Richard Jewell, Knives Out, Uncut Gems, Toy Story 4, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Little Women, and Pain and Glory. So with that in mind, guys, this is my top 10 favorite films of 2019. Rocketman was a film that blew me away. This was a film that I felt was actually what Bohemian Rhapsody should have been. This felt very sincere and honest, and it wasn't afraid to engage in the complexity of the situations that Elton John faced. And what's even more ironic is that I'm not really a huge fan of Elton John's music. I, on occasion, like some of his songs, but I'm not really a huge fan, and I'm actually a huge fan of Queen. And ironically, I ended up liking Rocketman better than Bohemian Rhapsody. Go figure. The great thing about this film was that there wasn't really much of a story or narrative, and that may sound like it's a flaw, but in reality it was what made it so refreshing and engaging. It was just showing the interactions between these two individuals and showing how they got to these two viewpoints, and to me that was honestly enough. It was just very engaging and fascinating hearing these two viewpoints of these individuals who are really well known, and even though they both come from the same religion and they're made from the same and they come from the same cloth, they both have different contrasting views, and it shows the complexity and the issues that they face based on how they deal with the issues that are presented to them. I always feel very hesitant whenever somebody tries to do a Spanish accent, but Jonathan Pryce actually pulls it off pretty well here, and he does a great job as being Pope Francis. And Anthony Hopkins is great as playing the stern and very traditional Pope Benedict. They both play off each other very well, and it's a great film. If you haven't checked it out yet, go ahead and check it out. What makes this film so great for me was that it's a story that knows that you don't have to be into cars in order to enjoy this story. This was a great film with great performances from Christian Bale and Matt Damon. They play off each other very well. James Mangold does a fantastic job directing. A lot of wide shots, a lot of great editing. The sound design and the sound mixing are on point in this film. They do a fantastic job. They're definitely Oscar worthy. And for me, it was just a very fun film with some great performances that were very engaging. And it felt like there was more to it than just your traditional sports film. It was very fun. It didn't feel very formulaic, but it also did, but in all the right ways. This is a film that a lot of people seem to adore this year, and at first I was a little hesitant because I thought it was going to be more funny, and I found this film very emotional. This was a very emotional film that I did not expect to actually get out of me. There were two scenes in particular that I thought that I knew were like huge tearjerkers for a lot of people. I didn't cry for the one you're thinking of. The one I did tear up for was actually for another scene with Sam Rockwell. This was a great film though, very nice and a very contrast and very fascinating take on how to change people's perspectives on hate and show the humanity that can be presented to them. I'm not really a huge fan of The Shining. Like, I like the film fine, but I'm not a diehard fan, and I've never read any of Stephen King's books, so I didn't really have any expectations. But I do know the synopsis, the differences between Stephen King's novel and the Stanley Kubrick film. So I did know the differences going in, and so they actually pulled it off pretty well. I knew the differences, and it was a great approach, and it was a great way of actually meeting halfway and compromising with fans of the Kubrick film and fans of the novel. Mike Flanagan continues to impress. I think he's one of the best modern horror film directors alongside James Wan. He's got so much talent, and he's got such a great career ahead of him. When this film came out, I didn't really know what to think because there was a lot of hype going into it, and I didn't know what to think. So when I went in, I was very cynical, and I was thinking maybe it would be overhyped, and I kept thinking, okay, movie, impress me, hit me with your best shot, and it was fantastic. It was a fantastic film with a great performance from Joaquin Phoenix, and man, he just nailed it. He knocked it out of the park. This is exactly what I wanted out of a comic book movie. The complexity, the humanity, showing the perspective of this individual and how they got to their view of the world. This was a great film from Todd Phillips, and I'm really excited to see how this film does, during award season. I think it'll get a lot of praise, and I definitely think that Joaquin Phoenix is definitely Oscar worthy. Luckily, I got to see this one in theaters. This was a great film. I'm so glad that I actually got to see this one. A lot of people were actually complaining this year that this film was actually too long or was too boring. But ironically, I think this was one of the films that actually, where it felt very warranted. Every single scene that actually was in felt like it actually had a purpose and a reason for existing. There were some films that I felt did go too long this year, like It Part 2, and I think of some areas of Avengers Endgame could have been cut. But what I really enjoyed about this film was how it dealt with mortality and showing how people are trying to correct the wrongs of the past. And I thought that was a really great approach because we've seen films like Goodfellas and Casino before, but with this one, we're actually seeing, this character's decisions actually come back to bite him in the ass, and showing how it affected him and him trying to, right his wrongs before it's too late, and the thought of forgiveness and hoping that he could have some sense of closure with his life. I love this film a lot. It was very engaging to me. I was super emotionally invested. I was just so blown away by the conversations and the dialogue, and just showing these two individuals and just showing how the process of divorce can tear a couple apart and turn people into the worst of enemies. And it was just so painful to sit through, but it felt so real and so genuine that I absolutely loved it. The dialogue and direction from Noah Baumbach was fantastic. It was such a beautiful film, and it was just so well made. I was a really huge fan of Snowpiercer, and I didn't see Bong Joon-ho's last film, but this film, man, he just knocked it out of the park with this film. The story just kept me guessing. It was just so bizarre and so insane, but it was so well crafted. It flowed so naturally. It was so well done. Every single frame of it just felt so amazingly crafted, and it was just such a great film to watch, and I absolutely loved it. And my favorite film of 2019 is... I absolutely love this film. A lot of people didn't really seem to love it like I did, and I'm not really a huge Tarantino fan, but man, I just absolutely adored it. Even though I don't think this is necessarily Tarantino's best film, my personal pick is actually Inglourious Basterds, but I thought this was such a great film, and this is probably his best film of the decade. I love this one more than The Hateful Eight and Django. It was just so fascinating. It was so well paced. I loved the chemistry and the interaction between Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. I loved how different Leonardo DiCaprio's performance was, and I thought Brad Pitt was just such a badass character. I loved how spaced out the story was. I loved the cinematography, the action, the colors, the production design. I just loved everything about this film, and I absolutely loved the ending. A lot of people are really split about the ending and certain scenes, but I was really happy with it. I absolutely had a blast with this film. This was just such an engaging story, and I was just so invested emotionally in the lives of these two individuals, and just seeing it all roll over. It was just such a fantastic film, and I loved it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed my video, you guys can actually like and subscribe. If you'd like for me to continue doing these types of reviews, please let me know. I'm going to be releasing another video soon, hopefully, of my top 10 favorite films of the decade. And I would like to continue doing movie reviews. If that's something you guys would be interested in seeing, then please let me know. And thank you guys so much for bearing with me and sitting through this. Also, please let me know your top 10 favorite films in 2019 in the comments below. And if you like this, guys, thank you so much. And please like and subscribe. Thank you.